but I did get to get out.
But at least you got to.
I got to get out into it.
That's good. Yes, that's what we call a classic overachievement on our temperatures. As we were expecting the mid-upper 60s, and boom, we hit 70.
Yeah,
so
I like it.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about that, and then I guess what's on the horizon as well.
What's on the horizon? Lots of folks asking about what to expect for March. So I got lots of information we can plow through here.
Awesome, and we are live streaming too. I want to remind everybody, if you have questions for Katie, feel free to drop those in on Facebook. I'll be checking it on there for this one. So let us know, and you know, we'll get the questions to her.
Yeah, let's get those graphics up and running so we can work through some of those. Basically, what I want to start going through as we get those graphics up is that we're looking at our February ending almost average on the temperatures and obviously on the wet side. And then as we go into March, you know, we're not going in like a lion. We're more going in like a lamb, cooler and with some chances for some rain. Okay, so here's where we usually are with our February. We begin in the upper 40s. We end in the mid 50s. We made it to 70, so we know that that definitely was an overachievement. And then we usually get around 3.5, a little more than 3.5 inches of rain, and then about 1.25 inches of snow. We know we talked about this together a little bit ago. We got 3 inches of snow, and then with the rain, we're finally ending at, it was just a little more than 4.25. It's like 4.3 something is where we ended up. These are the temperatures for the last few years. So this 70-degree temperature, we haven't reached a 70-degree temperature since 1988.
Wow.
And it was 71, and that is the record high for February. And then the last time we reached 70 was in 1968. So it does not happen very often that we make it to a 70-degree range. Typically, our 70s come in at the end of May, beginning of June, and we often will see them sprinkled throughout March or April. Came a little early this year. And there it is. Yep, I was right, 4.34. That's how much we've had. Not seeing anything today, so we're going to finish off above average and one of the wettest Februaries that we have seen in recent history. Here's where our temperatures are for the whole month. So these are those darker blue. That's when we had the lack of cloud cover, then the snow and the ice and everything came in. And then when you start to see the warmer temperatures, that's when the atmospheric river came in. And one thing that we didn't talk about when we were going our atmospheric river stuff is the location of the river depends on, or it makes it dependent on whether it will be warm or cold, because if you're in a certain section of it, you're a little warmer. We were obviously in the warmer section, because you can see our temperatures just shot up. And if you remember, we were just soaking wet, got most of our rain for the month, you know, in those last 3 days. So temperature from normal, evening out, even though we were very cold and very warm. And then that rain all just dumped on us. So we're obviously ending above average there. So that's how our February went. That's your February wrap. But we're seeing some shifting weather as we go into March. A lot of people don't really understand that when you talk about the phase of Enzo, you're talking about the winter. Now, it can have some impacts on you during the summers, but when you're looking at the phase of the La Nina, El Nino, or Enzo neutral, you're looking at the winter time. We're still technically in winter. We're not out of it yet. Yes.
Enzo neutral, is that just when it's not
it's not one or the other?
Okay, all right. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah. And that typically is we get into that pattern usually during the summers. Okay, so this is your typical Pacific jet stream in the winter. So this is if it's Enzo neutral, right?
Okay.
If you go into an El Nino, then it changes in one direction. If you go into La Nina, it changes in this direction. It gets a little more wavy, and you have this ridge that's sitting offshore. And this is where you and I were talking about the other day. When it sits far enough off, it just basically directs all the cold and wet down. Not the pattern that you want for the Arctic blast. You need that cold air and a low pressure that's coming in to give us those big snows. But this is what you get, that Arctic cold coming over. As most people know, but just in case those of you that don't, a La Nina winter typically means it's colder to the north and drier to our south. In an El Nino, it's flipped, and everything is directed toward the lower parts of the states, and then we stay drier and warmer typically to the north. Usually these La Ninas are great. We get snow and they're happy, but they don't always do what they're supposed to do. And we take a look at the rain averagely. I just made up a new word. On average, we lean toward being a little more on the wet side. But in the last 11 La Nina winters, we had 3 wet, 3 average, 3 dry. Okay, so even though we typically lean toward wet, again, they just don't all follow it. But if you look at the general pattern, that's what we see. So here's the upper level pattern that we're watching right now. If you're looking for that classic La Nina, this isn't it, because we would have a nice ridge right here, and then this trough would be coming down. You remember that arrow that I just showed you?
Just like
we don't, but we have this deep trough that's right here.
Okay.
And what we're seeing is sometimes and pretty often for us, when we get these deep troughs, they'll kind of pinch off, and then it separates from the main jet stream. This is what we call the steering of it. So we talked, remember I told you the other day we talked about like a ping pong ball, if you just kind of threw it in a room and it bounced all over. So that's what you have here, is this closed low. You can see this line that's going around means that it is not part of this. So it's lost its directional abilities. It can stall out. It can produce a lot of rain. It can produce a lot of snow. It can hang out for a week. It can go away quicker because there's nothing directing it. It just gets to do what it wants to do.
Okay.
That's what makes things so difficult for forecasters, because we don't have that steering, global pattern that it's attached to be able to tell where it is. And when we're doing our forecasting, you always start at the highest level, you look at the global pattern, and then you narrow your maps down until you get to the region or area that you're looking at.
Okay.
So if you're forecasting, like let's say you're forecasting for the military, and you're watching a specific location, you can go all the way down to an airport that you're trying to watch, or a location you might be wanting to invade or something like that. So you can really pinpoint it down. We start at the global level, work those models and maps and everything down until we kind of get into that Pacific Northwest region. So that right there is what we're watching for. It's been trending south a little farther. So we're actually looking at less rain and less snow than when we talked about this earlier in the week.
Okay.
So that's, I'll show you, or we talked about that, moving on. And then here we go all the way through, and we get till next week, and you see we have another little trough coming down. So getting farther into next week is a little harder to tell. But at this point, we're still not seeing, we're all the way to Wednesday, that nice big high that sits out here and then drops down in that low off to the east. So at this point, we're not seeing that classic pattern where we would get just soaking wet, overly wet. And in fact, here, look, this is all the way till that next Friday. The ridge is actually over us and the low is off. So we're not seeing that classic La Nina pattern that we're looking for. With the current place that that low is headed toward and the current conditions that we're working with, we'll be clear this afternoon. See some return of some fog likely and some clouds on the coast again tomorrow morning. Clear up for maybe a minute or two in the afternoon tomorrow, but still a few clouds. Coast stays cloudy, and then we cloud up as we go into the evening. And then what I want you to see is everything south of Salem. This is where, before we had some showers up here, we had more mountain snow, but if it continues to trend south, only the lower portion of the valley will really see anything. Because if you watch here, we see 1, 2, 3 little drops, and then it sort of swirls and goes off to, and then there's like some upper level, maybe some snow on those higher elevations. So this is all the way till Monday morning, which would mean we get a sprinkle or two on Sunday.
And that's about it.
At best.
Some cloud cover though still, right?
Cloud cover, yes, definitely cloudy, but wet, not soaking wet.
I'll take it.
Cooler, low 50s, actually below our average. As we look now, I love this. This was a newer one that I've stumbled across, because I'm always looking for different ways to show you guys the different things and the tools that we use. This one, again, is the American model, and this is the European model. There's quite a few people who lean toward this being the best world forecast model that there is, but we always like to compare notes of all of them. They're backwards. Usually the European model likes to trend on the heavy side.
I know that because of you.
So to see this has gone down this morning in the early morning runs. This was up at 3/4 of an inch. So as the runs have come throughout the day today, it keeps dropping itself down. So this is all the way till the 5th.
Okay.
So this is total between now and next Wednesday. And they're saying anywhere from 1/10 to, a 1/2 inch of rain.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at, is a pretty mild, rainy, showery start to the month. Okay, what's ahead, big picture for the next few days? So we have today and tomorrow. We're going to stay warm and dry. Then we get back into the cooler, maybe showery pattern. But today, upper 60s. Now, we did overachieve yesterday, got to 70. Not impossible for that to happen today. The sort of the turning point for that was the fog and the cloud cover that we had this morning.
Yeah.
Okay? So if it's stuck around, because sometimes we have a hard time getting out of that fog, especially when it comes up the, the Columbia and gets into the metro, it's all but cleared out. Just a few areas left just still have a little fog. So we could definitely see upper 60s, maybe low 70s, and then this weekend turning sprinkly but wetter south of Salem. So there's your big picture. And then finally your 7-day forecast. And this, I remember telling you last time we were together, be expecting everything from here out to change. It's changed like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like we haven't had anything consistent past Friday since this has been in the 7-day forecast. Because at one point it looked like showers came on Saturday, then it looked it was heavy on Sunday, then it backed off, then it looked like it was dry, then, I mean, like,
yeah,
that
it's changed so much.
Squirrely thing has really changed on us. Yeah.
I like that part though, because that's my Saturday.
Yeah.
I want to get outside.
Yes.
Essentially. So yeah, I'm a fan of the still dry.
Still dry, few clouds, upper
Yeah.
50s. I mean, not super warm like yesterday when we're in the 70s, but definitely still above average and, cool and showery. I know that there are a lot of us out there. We live in the Pacific Northwest for a reason, so this is actually a very happy forecast for you. So I don't want to discount those of us that appreciate the Pacific Northwest.
I do. I appreciate the Pacific Northwest very much. I'm a Pacific Northwest native, but that's why I also like a little bit of sun every now and then.
Yes, it's good for your soul.
It is.
The bottom line is we're not, I jokingly said this already, but we're not going into March like a lion. We're more coming in like a lamb. Very mild start, and then above average temperatures for the overnight temperatures all week this week.
All right.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's what we're looking at.
That's what you're looking at.
Perfect. Well, yeah, and then I guess we'll reconvene next week probably.
Yeah, we'll take a look at things, especially if we see anything big coming down the pipe. We'll obviously jump on right away and take a look at it. But for now, I would just say be ready for some showers every now and then. Don't go out without a little jacket if you don't want to get wet. But
otherwise,
it's pretty mild for you.
It's not too bad. All right, perfect. Well, Katie, thank you as always for sharing everything with us here. And thanks to everybody who's joining us. So again, this is Fox 12 Now. If it's your first time joining in, thanks for doing so. We will be back at 1 o'clock. I've got a lot on the docket for today for our live stream. So plenty of stuff to tune in to check out. I'll be talking about an Oregon dog rescue. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I took a dog for a walk. It's pretty great. So that's coming up at 1 o'clock, but and a lot more as always. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you, Katie.
Anytime.
We'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.